I have to be willing to go to the point where like this could give me serious injury or risk life, because you got like, you got these crazy shooting pains on your back, or like your knees are swelling. You're like, I don't know, but you have to be like, I don't care. Like, I'm doing this. I said I'm going to do this, and I'm going to trust that the medical team's going to take care of me. But you don't go there, and you don't let your mind go there of like, well, maybe, and in this one case, like, no, just not the time for that kind of thing. And it's amazing what your body can do, and also what your mind can do when it's fully committed. It's at the service of your heart. That's really driving that.
So shooting pains in your back. So every 40-year-old is a Navy SEAL?
That guitar lick is licking it up. It's so sick. I don't know any words for a rock and roll song.
It's like an 80s
Rock
cover
on.
band right there. Wow.
That was the exact description we gave the guy, like an 80s rock band.
It actually is. Yeah, my name's. Hey, welcome to the BeatiDudes. My name's Jeff Shufflebine. It is. I'm here with Paul Kolker
Howdy.
and Nick Besner.
That guy's Paul.
And man, we are the BeatiDudes, and we are so excited to be here with you. And that really, I've never heard that song without thinking life's gonna be okay.
Hey, it's all going to be all right.
I mean, it's 11 Seconds to Glory.
There you go.
You know what it reminds? Did you ever see Over the Top? It's the arm wrestling movie with Stallone, or maybe it's.
I saw the prequel Under the Bottom. But
It's just about leg wrestling.
yeah. No, it was mostly about chairs.
I'm thinking of a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Yeah, Bloodsport.
Yes.
I don't know. Is that
Yeah,
the one?
probably.
Anywho,
Running Man.
No, I've not seen that.
great movie.
Yeah.
So
Arm wrestling movie.
We are off the rails today.
well, we are, and we're gonna get right back on the rails.
Perfect.
Right now. Hey, so the BeatiDudes, if you've never experienced this before, welcome. We go deep on all sorts of things, but it's about Christian men following their walk with the Lord, growing closer with one another as we do that through humor and holiness, and they call that authentic fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And we're really blessed to have somebody who probably knows the meaning of authentic fraternity better than any of us from what he's been through in his life, but he's a friend of ours. He's part of our parish, the greatest parish known to Capel.
Yep.
That's me not being offensive.
There you go.
Yep.
Well played.
really reined that one in. I didn't know where you were going to go, but that was good.
Well
That was
played,
good.
Jeff.
St. Anne's Capel!
Well played, Jeff.
Conor Donahue, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be with you
Yeah,
guys.
welcome.
The crowd goes wild.
The
Yeah.
dudes. All right.
The dudes, what's your middle initial?
P.
Connor P. Donahue.
Well, that's it.
But
What is-
your bag says JMJ. Is that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph?
That's it.
Man, it's so funny. We were walking here, and I looked down at you have this incredible, like, professional businessman bag, like almost like the modern briefcase bag.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what a professional. And I was like, JMJ. And I knew your name was Connor, but I was thinking, I wonder what his middle initial stands for. So I'm not sure
Or the
why.
other two as well. I wonder what that is. While we're at it.
A little insight into Jeff's brain.
Yeah, sometimes I share how it works, and then they tell me stop sharing. How it works.
Too much sharing.
So Connor, you told me just now, Connor J.
P.
P.
JMJ really threw him off. That's
They
right.
look the same on
okay.
the alphabet. They have the line.
Don't all of them?
They have lines and curves. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You draw it out there. You're just writing it down.
Connor, how long you been going to St. Anne's?
I've been there about 8 years.
8 years.
8 years, coming up on 8 years.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, the only person here longer than you is Paul, who's like an OG.
Well, yeah, I was born and raised in that.
I was born there.
Hard to beat that.
Pretty much.
Hey, the first time I ever met Connor, I felt myself like straighten up and try to come across like I
shoulders
knew a
back.
thing or two.
Yeah.
Like, oh yes, I'm also brilliant and well formed and strong.
Should have ironed my shirt.
Yeah.
Made my bed this
Or
morning.
the alphabet maybe too. But
Yeah, right? All right. Whoa, it comes in guns a-blazing. I love it.
Gotta keep Jeff honest here.
That's right.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
We were in Rob Hayes' kitchen and somebody goes, "You got to meet this guy." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And he goes, "This guy was a Navy SEAL." And I was like, "What do we have in common?"
Yeah, why did you think
Why?
I need to meet him?
Tough lead. Huh?
I wore cleats in college for fun.
He has all the discipline. I have none of it. You should meet.
Together we make average.
That's awesome.
No, it has been such a blessing and a blast both to get to know you and also just to see the way that you are a witness in the world. So welcome to the BeatiDudes. We are welcome to have you.
Oh, thank you.
I get so tongue-tied around Navy SEALs.
No, I'm excited.
Man, what is your story? Where'd you come from, and how does somebody end up going on the path that you've been on? For our listeners, this is a very unique path. We've never had a Navy SEAL. We've had one of everything else on here. So,
it was unexpected and for most of my life. I wasn't someone that, you hear people like, oh, since my first waking memory, I wanted to do this, or I've always wanted to do that. I wasn't. I was born and raised in Northern Virginia. My mom was a school teacher. Dad worked for the Department of Justice.
What hospital were you born in?
Gosh, that's a
No, I was born in Fairfax County Hospital.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I think it was born in Alexandria.
Okay.
Actually. I don't know which one, but yeah.
I'm sorry.
We might have been born in the same hospital. That's why we needed to know each other at Rob Hayes' house.
It all comes together now.
Christopher in the comments, if you'll fact check that for us, that'd be great.
That's right. And so I grew up, playing sports, involved in activities like Boy Scouts, and I actually joined ROTC out of high school because a buddy of mine from Altar Boys and Boy Scouts did it. And it sounded like, that's pretty cool. It's kind of like Boy Scouts, it's leadership. My parents weren't in the military, but it seemed kind of like, well, I'll try that out.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what I wanted to do in the Navy, but let's just try this. My third time wearing my ROTC uniform was 9/11. So all of a sudden it went from, hey, this is kind of a fun, Boy Scout thing to do. Like, okay, hold on. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to serve during a time of war. And what does that mean? And do I want to do it? I had a year to back out. You can do a year of ROTC and no strings attached. You can leave. So I really was like, I'm not sure about any of this. A few months later, a Navy SEAL who's actually going to the UVA Business School spoke to our ROTC class, ROTC unit, and it was this crazy experience where he just described what he did, just shared some stories, and I was like, that's me. Like, I've got to do that. I couldn't really describe it. It felt like this calling, and it was calling out to me, and I didn't really pay much attention to it for a few weeks. But every day I thought about it. I couldn't stop thinking. It was the weirdest thing. And then I thought, I got to reach out to this guy, and I got to learn more about this. And this is before all the movies and books, so it wasn't like it wasn't easy to do. But the more I pursued it and went after it, I had this sense of peace and purpose to it. And I wasn't this physical specimen where it made sense. I hadn't competitively swam since kindergarten. I couldn't do more than like 6 pull-ups. I was an endurance athlete. I was into cycling. I was on the college cycling team and track. But there's a lot of things I couldn't do. And so the next 3 years of college, I started focusing on that and doing all I could to get a spot. It's hard enough just to get a spot to go to BUDS, the selection training. Was blessed to get a spot there. And then after I graduated, was commissioned, I went out to Coronado and went through BUDS, and that's how it all started.
Were people around you in ROTC or in college, did they know that you had your sights on this?
Yes, from like my sophomore year onward, I knew it was what I wanted to do. I couldn't hide it. It came out, and yeah, people knew.
And did you have like accountability buddies in this? Like, okay, from 6 pull-ups to we got to get you primed and ready for BUDS.
I mean, I had great instructors who were helping me. I sought out a personal trainer who put me on a program. I sought out swim coach, a swim class. I did like this so I had a bunch of things like that. You also had people who talked about it. It was one of those things where a lot of people talked about it, and this SEAL that I was telling you about, he asked me like, well, do you want to be a SEAL or maybe be XYZ in the military? Like you think about both of them? Because I was telling some guys are thinking about this or maybe that. They're not sure. And I was like, no, I just want to do this. He's like, you don't want to do that or this? I'm like, no, just this. Like, okay, that's the right answer. He's like, this has to be the kind of thing where it's kind of an all or nothing commitment. Like the level of prep, but also like the mental, spiritual, like all in mentality that you need. It has to be this idea of like, there's no backup plan. You don't have this safety net mentality. And I think that's what drew me to this. I think at the time in my life, I was looking for something big and a challenge that would get me out of bed early, make me stay up late. Like it filled that desire for me, and it did throughout that whole time.
Did you see other people around you, especially as you were entering into BUDS, who you knew had a backup plan, or you knew that they were kind of like, I hope this works, and then you saw how that played out for them?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that was some of the best advice he gave me on that. Because I think what he said, which I could see that, was if you have a backup plan, you're always going to take it. Because it's going to push you to the point of exhaustion and pain that you're going to kind of, you're going to want relief. Your mind's going to want relief. And in that moment of exhaustion, it's not going to make logical sense anymore of like in your time of rest and sitting here being like, boy, I really want to be a SEAL and do all those great SEAL things. No, in that moment, your mind's like, get me out of this right now. And so if you've given yourself even like the tiniest door, it's going to take it. I think it's for anything, any like serious commitment in life, like that is the mentality that I've had to have that I think it gets you through, is you got this sole focus, complete commitment, or else, yeah, guys quit. Guys that you didn't expect to quit. And I think that's what it is. It's more of a mental test. It's like a test of the heart. It reveals the heart more than anything. Because there's only one way to find out. You know, so you can say things. We can all say things, but you have to go through these things in life to really reveal like whether you're gonna be able to do it.
I read audiobook of course, David Goggins, right? His book and everything like that. And you know, the thing that came up so many times as he was doing these different things was like, why, right? What's your why?
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, you're out. Like, you're going to ring the bell. You're going to quit. Right?
That's right. And I tell you, there's a point in Hell Week. Hell Week's like the fourth week. You're up for 5.5 days. All you get is 2-hour naps. You're doing exercise for 20 hours a day. You're running 200 miles. Everyone's getting to the point of exhaustion and failure. And I remember a point where I could not like cognitively come up with my reasons for wanting to do this. So almost you're at that point, that why of like, at that point you shut off the mind and you let like the heart, the will lead. And you don't question it in the moment of trial. The moment of trial is like you've already committed, and I've anchored on that why long ago in all my training, and now is a time to just execute and do.
I think that full commitment that you're describing made it where your brain, once it shuts off, you didn't have to risk that your heart was going to quit. You know, it's
That's
like
it.
you had already been past that part.
Yeah, that's what you need, I think. And I mean, there was kind of this thought of like, I have to be willing to go to the point where like this could give me serious injury or risk life, because you got like, you got these crazy shooting pains on your back, or like your knees are swelling. You're like, I don't know, but you have to be like, I don't care. Like, I'm doing this. I said I'm going to do this, and I'm going to trust that the medical team's going to take care of me. But you don't go there, and you don't let your mind go there of like, well, maybe, and in this one case, like, no, you just not the time for that kind of thing. And it's amazing what your body can do, and also what your mind can do when it's fully committed. It's at the service of your heart. That's really driving that.
So shooting pains in your back. So every 40-year-old is a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Okay,
sure.
yeah.
Everyone can feel good about themselves. Why not? Let's say that, right? No, but I think it is a thing of how do you handle those pains, and it gave me a different perspective for sure.
For sure. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
What are those bonds like if you're going through Hell Week with somebody and they make it out and you've been next to them through all of this? I might even say thick and thin, through hell.
Through thick.
Yeah, just through thick.
And more thick.
Yeah.
Thick and thick.
It is an incredibly special experience. I think you learn a lot about yourself going in through something like that. You learn a lot about each other, and then I think in my case, you learn a lot about God. Like, your place and where it's humbling of where you struggle. But there is something there about the amount of respect that you have. It's heroic. The things that people do when everyone's cold, wet, tired, and to see someone make a small gesture to take the load off someone else, to encourage someone else, I mean, it means the world to you because you know how much they're hurting. And that it creates this degree of trust, which is by design what it's trying to do, so you can trust each other in much more difficult circumstances, perhaps down the road on the same SEAL team. But it creates a degree of trust and respect, and just kind of that kind of humbleness among everyone that you've been tested, that the other person was tested, and you're grateful that they went through that, and that they would do anything for you at a level that's hard to describe to people outside of that. And and the people have faults, of course, and outside of that community, but in there you're like, man, but this guy, I mean, I know he will do anything, and it's rare to find something like that.
Does that sorry?
Oh no, go for
I was
it.
gonna say, does that translate when you're with another Navy SEAL who was classes before you or classes after you? Like, you literally didn't go through anything with him, but now you're all of a sudden assigned to something together. Like, you have just this knowingness that we couldn't possibly understand. It reminds me, like, the way you're saying that about the way an astronaut talks about seeing the Earth, that none of us could ever understand what they saw when they were in space looking at the Earth, because it's just a select few that get that.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, because you have this, I know what you've been through. I know what you'd be willing to do, this trust, this implicit or unspoken. And it's a special thing. And I think that it contributes to that team cohesion, that trust. And I think it leads to that boldness individually and as a team to take on hard missions. And because you know that I've got the best guys in the world on my team, like, who can fail with these kind of guys. And that kind of and boldness is what you need to, I think, to go in the situation. So, yeah, it's something I'm very grateful for, to have those kind of teammates and those kind of relationships.
Well, I think it's also incredible because usually when you hear somebody say they signed up for the Navy SEALs, you think of like a Jocko Willink, who just looks like he was born and bred to be that guy, from day one.
Yeah.
Right. And the way you described it, you said, well, I felt this call, but I hadn't even, done swimming since kindergarten and all of that. It's like God God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called.
100%. I think that's an important thing to recognize, and that burning desire is what created the drive to get to that point,
to go
overcome
make it
all those steps to prep and then get through it. And I think one of the best phrases from one of my instructors before Hell Week was, at the end of this week, you're going to be surprised who's standing here with you and who's not. And that's exactly is the case in my class. Some of our best runners, swimmers, obstacle course guys, they quit and they didn't do it. Whereas you got these guys that are unassuming. They don't look the part, so to speak, but they have got this commitment and this heart that you want them with you anywhere you go.
Yeah,
and it really speaks to that you when tested, it kind of reveals what somebody's like.
What about, you talked about kind of this, you said Boy Scouts, you threw in altar boys.
Yeah.
Where was faith in your history growing up, and how did that either get solidified or change as you went through one heck of an experience of, that it's not like it ends at Hell Week either. Like then you become an active service member. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was blessed to go to a Catholic school 1st through 8th grade, and high school was very formative. I went to a public high school, and I felt like that was a chance for me to really own my faith and realize, hey, am I going to believe this and follow this or not? I don't have to, so to speak. And it kind of, I went the way of, I want to learn all about this and get into apologetics. And I was also very fortunate to befriend my pastor. He really took me on as kind of a spiritual director. And so that was
in high school.
In high school.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. And I think it was someone to look up to and to see, that you can, the faith can be inspiring, it can be appealing, attractive, and all those things. One other thing that happened in high school was I had this knee injury that basically for 2.5 years, they couldn't figure out what was going on. I had these aspirations, these ambitions to be a track athlete in college and get a scholarship, and all that was dashed. That kind of led me to deepen my faith. I think adversity, in a way, it forces you to say, like, I can't fix this on my own. I don't know why this is happening. All my plans are ruined. It also inadvertently made me do a lot of cross training and get back into swimming a little bit. And I see how these things connect later on. But it forced me to get outside of my identity being attached to this one pursuit or activity. And so that became this bedrock, I think, that I later relied on, of one, not being deterred by adversity. And I created these ways to deal with it mentally, not get discouraged, because I was very humbled that I couldn't do the basic things I wanted to do. I also was grateful when I did get my ability to run and do PT. I didn't take it for granted. Like, you got these shots in life, and you may not always have them. And so you really should go deeper there. So that really helped. I think the adversity strengthened my faith. So then going into the SEAL teams, it was a chance to really apply that. And it elicited a lot of introspection on my behalf. I seen people talk about, like, well, how would you describe Hell Week? I think in a lot of respects, it was like a big faith experience. Like, it is an act of faith. There's a phrase that we use a lot in the Catholic faith about, you need to surrender. And I believe that. I get it. But I think my initial sense of that word, and I think maybe the colloquial sense, is more like give up, be passive, throw it in, sit back, he'll take care of it, right? And I know it's not what we mean, but for me, when I think about that, I go back to that SEAL training, and it was more of surrender, meaning going all in, like recklessly going in, radically committing to the point there's no backup plan. I'm risking it all on this thing, and I'm letting go of that control. And so I think being in circumstances where I think in our culture we have a lot of guardrails. There's a lot of we aren't allowed to ever really risk things like that. I mean, I remember thinking like, man, these instructors, they're gonna let us really go. We're gonna go all the way here. Like, wow, this is it's probably a little unhealthy, but they're gonna let us keep going.
Yeah,
like you go on these points like, okay, we're blowing through those things. Usually people would stop you, but like that degree of like really hanging it out is that kind of like, I've really got to like, am I in or not? Am I going all in and trusting? And like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I think that's in a deep way what our faith is calling us to do every day. And so as much as I can, I try to pull from that. Let's say.
Man, that is so powerful to think like, just take your faith for a second, go all in. There's no plan B. You're either doing this until you
may
get
hurt,
there.
and
it's gonna.
You don't know what's going to cost you, but I'm doing it no matter what.
Yeah.
Like that concept's crazy. And because our society is so countercultural, you know, of, have a plan B, be rational, be reasonable.
Keep your
hedge
options
your bets.
open.
Yeah, come on, let's be thought. Like, that's not what we're called to do here, And I think, and what I found is when you do that, it's almost freeing in one sense, and it's so purposeful. And then also, like, I realized my abilities were so much more than I had given them credit for. Like some instructors talk about, like, your body's capable of 10 times more than you think. And you're like, yeah, you just say that. But no, if you like really, you're like, I'm gonna go till the wheels fall off, and you're like, well, they didn't fall off. Dang, I went a lot further than I thought I would. But it kind of thing with the faith, it's like, well, that's exactly that's what we've been called to do, and we're like scared to go that far. But that's
somebody
the
might
big
not
takeaway.
like me online because I have strong faith, and you're like holding, sheltering everything you say.
Yeah.
We went and started a podcast and just renamed the BeatiDudes. That's what we did. We're all in.
There you go.
Yep.
One funny story, one serious story. The funny one is when we started this podcast, we said, how often we can do this? Twice a week? Twice a week. Yeah, we can do that. Sure, we're all in. So there really was this like, let's just commit and do this, because a lot of these things fail because it's good, but people aren't really committed to go doing it. We're like, let's go. So that's a fun one. My serious one, and please know I'm not trying to make a comparison to being a Navy SEAL, but as I listen to you describe your active mentality going into it, when I started Carpool at A&M, everything was telling me that I should be more rational and have plan B, and this is a nice thought. And I was so irrationally all in that there was no way I wasn't going to do it, to the point where that ended up making other people kind of come along for the ride because they realized I wasn't going to stop. And it did hurt, and I did some things wrong. I lost friends because I was so single track focused on, somebody would have a 2-minute break to talk to me and I couldn't talk about anything else. So there was like a maturing that I had to go through, but it was the most all-in, hardest, most exhausting thing I've ever been through. And to this day, I have 7 kids and a bunch of businesses, and I think that's pretty easy compared to like the
reframes your perspective.
The maniacal way that I approach it. But it makes me question, like, where should I be all in right now? And faith is certainly one of those. But what are those other things where we're called to be all in, or where we can still go back and challenge ourselves to know that we have that muscle and that ability? Because it's pretty easy to turn into a 45-year-old businessman.
We all can slack here or there. So how do we keep ourselves honest and committed?
But there's also a discernment piece to that as well. Excuse me, because you described how that became kind of this burning desire, right, at first. And so then you started to look into it, and you had to ask that question, am I going to take this next step? So I think you want to be judicious, right? Like, we want to be prudent about what the things are we're committing to, not just, I heard on the podcast, so I got to go all in. So
I'm all in on balloon animals.
Right. That was you read my mind. Yeah. No, I mean, well, whatever it is, right? Like, we want to pay attention. So maybe it's when we get to that place of commitment, then it's all right. Now do I go all in, or do I try to do what I think is more of a modern kind of American thing, where it's like, well, we've got so many options, so we try to keep all of our options open.
Right.
Instead of saying, well, no, if I keep my options open, I'm never getting to really fully embrace whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
That I'm supposed to.
Things that are worthy of that commitment, right?
I think it was Alex Havard who was talking about decide. Maybe not. It might have been a different speaker, but decide, like, the root of that desire, like, is to cut. So, like, to make a decision, you're intentionally cutting other things out.
Okay, you want to hear something crazy? Yeah. It's the same root word as homicide, decide, suicide. Those are you're basically killing off other options.
Yeah.
You're cutting those other options out of existence.
And I think, a quick side note, I'm a big believer in that you, and it also makes the decision, the stakes are higher, but once you make it, I think it's freeing. So I was given a lot of guff from my now wife back when we were dating because I wouldn't say I love you. And the reason was, we say it about, I love pizza, I love this sports team. And I was like, this word, like, what is this, It means nothing to anybody anymore. And that was, people need to follow this advice. This is more my own symbolic of how I try to mean that. So, I told, like, I'm going to say I love you to the woman that I marry. So on the day I proposed, I finally said it to her, and, she's like, I didn't actually even hear your proposal because I can't say that word. But, but it's that same mentality that I found. If I'm doing a serious, commitment, I'm better at that commitment if I kind of raise the stakes. I try to make it more all in for things that are worthy of that.
Yes.
You got to cut things off, and you got to, you can't do everything all at once, but.
Number one, if there was a stock market for investing in you, I would put in all my money right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
All in.
NIL for business. I don't know how that works.
No, that's why when I play poker, I only bet all in.
That's a good spot to apply.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't get a read on me. I'm all in.
We haven't even dealt the cards yet.
I'm in some serious debt, guys. If you could help me out.
The other thing I'm wondering, we do have female listeners, including America, who's in the corner over here. And I think that people are going to be like, where are the other Conors? Like, if I was, I'm not a young woman, but I got to imagine with...
This is one of the weirder statements.
I love the setup
you
here.
know where
I
I'm
love
going
the
with this.
setup.
No,
like,
we know.
I got to
know.
imagine, like, I listen to these women, they're like, all the men in that are out there are creepy or weird or addicted to these things online or all this stuff. Like, where's Conor Donahue 2024? You start that and we can all just retire.
Well, first off, I made a lot of bumbles and mistakes in my dating career, so I don't have it all figured out. But I think it all comes back to, like, I'm just someone trying to follow the faith and this idea of put your first things first. And,
You also used the word guff earlier. I've never,
I was going
Why did I say that? I don't know why that came up.
I was like, wow, you must be Gen X.
Yeah.
Are you 82?
I'm a proud millennial, thank you. No, that's ridiculous.
No, but along those lines, to the young men who are listening to this, I would say, figure out maybe what one thing is that you can commit to on just a daily basis, right? Is that getting up 10 minutes earlier and praying instead of, scrolling on your phone while you're still lying in bed? Because that's so easy to do, and we all have done it at some point or other, right? But what's the intentional thing that you can do? Because that's, like you said with your story, it was a process. You had to learn to swim competitively, right? Like it wasn't like you had it all figured out the moment you decided that you wanted to go do that. So the challenge, I would say to anybody listening, to especially the young men, is like, what's the one thing that you can change about your day? Maybe start it off on a better note.
You could be like Mark in Cincinnati and listen to every episode of the BeatiDudes to just build up that muscle memory of greatness.
No, but as much as we like to pump ourselves up, like, we've had some amazing guests, so please go back, like, listen to some of these other.
Go pray the Divine Mercy Chapel.
Yeah, so many good things.
So
there.
powerful.
Yeah.
Hey, where did you? Okay, then you went and you have to serve, right? You've gone through buds. Tell me about that part, and then where does the wife come into this whole picture?
Yeah, so I served 9 years active duty and did 5 deployments over that period of time to various places and in Iraq and also Africa. During that time, my girlfriend became fiance, became wife, became mother. So it was she's been through a lot, and I think, as a quick side note, I think. I appreciate every time that someone's said thank you for your service, and I'm grateful for all the support for our men and women who are serving that we give in our country. But that gave me an insight into kind of like the silent sacrifice that a lot of the families are going through, and I was inspired and humbled by everything that she sacrificed to date me and then be married. I was gone for 2 of the first 4 years of our marriage. I think the first year or so of dating, we saw each other about 4 times. We were doing long distance, and it was those things where the distance can either break the relationship apart or make it stronger. It really kind of forces you to decide, like, what are we doing here? So I think definitely the Lord had a hand in that and bringing that vocation. And in a lot of respects, it didn't make sense. I was planning to go into SEAL training single and cutting off those kind of relationships, but I felt like we should stay in touch. It didn't add up of how am I gonna manage this and manage that, and I was all worried about. I went to the tabernacle and prayed about it and thought, let's just take one step at a time. Let's just see where this goes. Take one step, and the relationship grew, and so I'm obviously very grateful for that, and that that has become the cornerstone of my life. But it was hard. It was hard to for her certainly to go through that, and so definitely a lot of appreciation for the families.
And then today, how many children? What's the setup here?
So I've got 3 boys now, 10, 8, and 6, and we're homeschooling.
Do they break many things?
They break everything multiple times. They're kind of like wild animals. We don't have any pets at home because I feel like I've got 3 that I am taking care of. And people talk about, like, I don't need another one. I already got these. Look at that mess right there.
You want a dog? I got plenty to clean up.
Dogs are easy, man. So it's fun and challenging. But, living in Coppell, going to St. Anne's, and that's it. Yeah,
best church in all of Coppell.
That's it.
As they say.
As they say.
I mean it. Conor, you don't strike me as a guy who wants to play improv, but will you judge a game for us?
All right, let's do this.
All right.
The game is called Blessed Are the Joke Makers, for they shall inherit the points.
Okay.
And we've got a character. Oh, did you say?
I was going to say it'll be 82 points.
82 points. Love it. All right, so we've got a character card and a Catholic card game card, and we have to answer the prompt on this Catholic card game card as this character. And you just get to decide, not necessarily who did it best or what was the cleverest. It's just whatever you like the most.
All right.
It's literally up to you.
Let's do it.
All right.
I feel very rusty. It's been about 6 months since I won one of these.
Been a minute.
I don't know if that's going to make me feel sorry or say I shouldn't pick him because maybe
I've only won.
But I've stayed in this. I'm
right.
all in. You're going to see a guy who's all in.
I want to see you go
nice
for it.
Reversal. All right, here we go. The
gosh.
character we have to become is a chronic complainer.
All in.
And the prompt is, youth ministers love talking about blank. Youth ministers just love talking about how I shouldn't be on my phone all the time, and I'm playing too much Fortnite, and I've only been playing it for the last 2 weeks, which I just learned is a fortnight, but I just don't like. Why? Gosh, he made mistakes when he was growing up. What's the big deal?
I'm not a gossip or anything, but I can't stand those youth ministers. And I like them, but I just can't. I can't stand the way they talk and what they do. Most of all, they're up there always like, we need more volunteers. We need more help. And you're like, what? They're like, yeah, come up here. Let's do this praise and worship. And we're going to do all these like fun little get to know you games for the 3rd graders. And my knees hurt. My back hurts. I feel like I just got done with Hell Week. And it's just another week. And I like them. They're good people. I just can't stand listening to them or what they say or do.
Man, another day at youth group, and I'm telling you, my youth minister, he just loves talking about going all in with your faith and your fitness, and I'm just like, I'm 17, like, I don't need to be all in. I could be like a little bit in, like that would be all right. I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, like probably a track athlete. Distance and endurance runner, but I don't need to be all in yet.
I don't know if you were shedding light on Conor or darkness on Conor.
It was just a little glimpse backwards.
I think so.
Little window into 17-year-old Donahue.
Yeah.
What say ye?
What say ye on the winner?
Boy, these are tough. I felt like I heard my youth minister first, and that was reminiscent. And then and Nick over here just slamming me and like remind me how much I sucked when I was 17. Like, oh man. But with Jeff went through, I don't know if you guys recognize, he went through 3 different personas. About 30. It started off as Bozo the Clown.
Yes.
And then he comes whining like 3rd grader. Then he wrapped up as like a country guy. I was amazed. I didn't know where we were going, but I was impressed by it. So I've got to give it to Jeff on that one.
There you go, Jeff. Your pandering paid off, buddy.
Yes.
You needed it. You needed it.
That's great.
Woo, doggy.
You did it.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Country guy coming out there.
This has been the BeatiDudes Finalities show.
You're just closing it out now that you want
I
winner.
won.
Winner takes
calling
all.
it.
Drop the mic, huh?
I heard you say say all or
You
nothing.
went all in. You went all in. Like Double Jeopardy.
And everybody gets one of these Shipley donuts.
Oh.
They're not even a sponsor, but we
No,
like donuts.
If you're out there as a Shipley's executive and would like to sponsor the
Yes.
BeatiDudes,
Please.
This is not going to help you do more pull-ups, but you know what might? Is having a pair of sacrilegious socks on your legs. So this is for you for being our celebrity guest judge. Do you have these
Hey.
already?
I do, but
Okay.
hey, who
Hold on. Do you
who
have
to me
these
is-
already?
Oh, I don't.
So we're giving you the Blessed Carlo Acutis
That's
socks.
cool.
This young man represents the youth that we're talking about here today.
Love it.
So these are yours, and I know when we come back for the bonus show, we're going to be talking about you in the world of technology. But right now, we're going to hear from our sponsors. Oh, wait. Go to BeatiDudes at sacrilegious.com/BeatiDudes, and we'll be right back here in the Lucid Private Office, lucidprivateoffice.com.
Killed it. And by that I mean murdered, like homicide.
The team at Aquinas Wealth Advisors believes that good values and good returns are not mutually exclusive. Using a tech-smart and morally sound approach, they provide investment alternatives that align with Catholic teachings without sacrificing returns. These days, faith-driven investors are finding it hard to know where their money is going. They have no visibility into what their dollars are supporting, but there's a better way. Thanks to the Faith and Finance Score from Aquinas Wealth Advisors, you can look into your current holdings to see what you're supporting and make a switch to an advisor that aligns with your values and gives power to your voice. Check out AquinasWealth.com today.
Hey BeatiDudes, it's Jeff here. When Nick and I set out and we started this company, Undivided Life, we decided to not use traditional healthcare, but we went with Solidarity Health Share because we thought it was an affordable and ethical alternative that matched the needs of our business and our growing families. Since then, my family put Solidarity to the test. We've had pregnancies, babies, emergency room visits, even a brain surgery for one of my children, and Solidarity has been an incredible partner and has also had the cost and the ethical approach that we love. Here's a link for you to go check it out. learnmore.solidarityhealthshare.org/BeatiDudes. This is your chance to be in solidarity with the Shufflebine family.
Hi, it's Paul Kolker from the BeatiDudes here, and I just wanted to share with you guys that I also, outside of the show, perform improv comedy on a regular basis with a group called Divine Comedy. So what we do is we come up with everything on the spot, so whether you're looking for faith-filled, fun, family-friendly comedy for your youth night, or whether you're looking for clean comedy for your corporate event, Divine Comedy can perform for your group and even get you in on the action. So if you'd like to hire us to come out and perform for your next event, check out DivineComedyImprov.com. Divine Comedy, an inferno of fun.
Stop what you're doing and listen to the BeatiDudes.
Welcome back from break. We're here with Conor Donahue, Navy SEAL, father, husband. And Conor, man, you've got, I'm sure, some crazy stories. I just want to hear, like, what's one, like, Bud's training story that's like, man, I never thought I could have done this thing or did this thing, or you wouldn't believe this one.
Okay. You mean like crazy feats of strength kind of...
We just know you can't talk about. You told us you went to a continent at one point, so we know we can't ask you about missions you were on.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, like a personal overcoming type moment.
Just like a moment you were proud of, like, wow, I did that.
Man, yeah.
Or you saw somebody else break something.
Yeah.
Yeah, or that.
Just gore.
You know, honestly, it was as mentioned, it's humbling because there's so many things you need to be good at. You know, the word SEAL stands for sea, air, land. So there's different disciplines, different tactics. I felt like every day I was put in a situation that was some degree of uncomfortable or was newness. And I think it did teach me to kind of like, let's take it one evolution at a time, as they say in the SEAL teams, and to work through it. And I think one of those that really stood out was end of our first week, and we had a lot of guys that were sick and injured. I was kind of fighting some respiratory thing. We had like a leadership shakeup among our class. There's a lot of like things were not in a rhythm. It wasn't like, okay, I'm set up for success here. Okay, I've thought this through. I feel good. It's more middle of chaos. We had to do this 50-meter underwater swim. So it was like we're rushed, we're late, we're tired, we're exhausted. They're stressing us out, and now you got to like focus and keep your cool on this. And so you got to jump in, you got to do a front flip underwater, you got to go to the other end, hit the wall, and come all the way back. And it was one of those, again, the kind of just trust in your abilities, try to like stay calm, and just execute, and just be able to do that. I think it was one of the small little wins to yourself in a moment of like, I don't have time for everything to be perfect to set me up for the ideal. I've got this messy situation I'm in, and I need to perform here. And I think, again, just it really reminded me of just trusting and letting go and getting through it.
Is your nickname No Excuses? Because like that's what I like. Connor, no excuses, Donahue.
Suck it up.
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
awesome.
Again, I saw guys do this left and right, and other things as well. That again, it's just a reminder of like if other people can do this, it's emboldening, it's inspiring, and I think being in an environment like that where that's the norm, like what I described is not impressive or unusual. It just is a very formative environment for the lessons you take through all life.
That's incredible. Right. Well, and even just for realizing that you don't have to have it all be perfect before you try to execute on something. Like just go for it.
Yes, right.
Like take that risk. It might not be perfect, but you'll get through it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. We're going to ask a question for all four of us. It's the TBD, the BeatiDudes question of the day. And this is for all four of us, so you can think on yours for a minute.
All right.
Yeah, so this one's kind of a fun one, and I don't even know where I'm going to go with it yet, but it is, what would you title your own biography? What would you title your own biography?
I've got one.
Did you already write it?
Well, no, I haven't written it, but I
wrote the title.
No, actually, weirdly,
picture.
At least the first part of it, I had thought of. I forget how it even came up, but it was. I want to say it was like a reflection in seminary or something. I was like, oh, if I did try to come up with something like this, it would be called "Kicking and Screaming: My Reluctant Pursuit of Holiness."
Oh, yeah.
So. Yeah, just, like...
And that applies for everything.
Well, it does. I mean, and not that I was truly reluctant, but realizing just how much I would, like, dig in my heels sometimes when God was saying, hey, just trust me with this. And it's like...
Brother, I think the holiest people realize how much they're kicking and screaming, and people who aren't as holy are convincing themselves that they're not. Like, I think there's an awareness to it,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an iterative thing, right? Where it's like you try to grow, and then that growth makes you more aware of where you haven't grown, and like it's a struggle. So it's almost like the more you wake up to it, the harder it is, which I'm sure you probably experienced with military training as well. It's like the faster they tell you to go, or the farther you have to run, like the more you realize, man, I can't quite get that last mile or whatever it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right, let's write it. What are we gonna write for you?
I would say like the journey, and I'm feeling like a picture of like a mountain or like a kind of a path, and it's kind of like a one man's journey to discern or realize his vocation, like whatever that might be in your life.
Yeah,
you're on it. I'll help you write that. My first one, I was just thinking about David Goggins. Mine's called "You Could Probably Hurt Me."
You could probably hurt me.
Now I want this to be.
That's just piggybacking off of "Can't Hurt Me." That's awesome.
I mean, probably could.
Now I want this to be real. Can we? Here are all the ways you could hurt me. Chapter 1, the kidneys.
My other one, and I don't know why this is ringing through my head, but like I've had a life of stories that are pretty hard to believe.
Yeah.
And it's wild when I was, early in my life, I would tell them, and people would be like, no way. And my answer would I was always kind of running around with my best man. I'd say, just ask Benji. And so I think it would be just ask Benji. Like,
oh, there you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're telling me that this guy has a religiously funny podcast. Yeah, just ask Benji. He has a religiously funny podcast. This guy did
ring
this.
To it.
Yeah, just ask Benji.
Just ask Benji.
He'll tell you.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so hope you're listening there, Benji. He and I had a great talk today. He fasts every Wednesday for my son.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
So
he sends me a
cool.
text in the morning, says, I'm
That's so
fasting
cool.
today. And so
Powerful.
love it.
All right. So, given that I had only a couple minutes to think about this, I think the title I come up is the scrappy sheepdog.
Yes.
And we can talk about my fascination with sheepdogs, but they are like a workhorse. They're loyal. They're just trying to serve a purpose, a mission. I feel like I'm at my best when I have something like a mission I'm working towards, but they're in the background. They're working it. They're looking out for the greater good there. So yeah, at my best, be honored to be called a sheepdog.
you gave a talk about this concept, the sheepdog fatherhood or something, at the St. Anne's Men Conference, best parish in Capel, back in October. Keep going on this. Let's dive into a couple of these chapters here as we kind of get closer to the end of the show, because I was moved by it so much. This is really funny to give you this compliment. I was so moved by your talk. I, instead of going to the rest of the conference, walked out and got in my car and drove home.
Oh, well, thank you. You put it in practice, right? You were looking, go with your family.
I was listening to him, and I was like, wait a minute. My wife needs me
do
right
this.
now.
Yeah.
It's a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, America was sent. My wife called America, who's a person, and said, can you come help?
Wow.
One of our kids was getting sick. Jeff's at this conference, and I'm like, sheepdog, protect your family. Why is it America going to my house? Why is it not me? So it literally lit a fire under me.
That's
so
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know, this concept, I first heard about it in the military. In the military and law enforcement culture, there's this idea of those types of protector roles in our society are different. You know, they're trained to do violence and to serve and protect, and they don't quite fit in sometimes. And this idea of looking at the world of like, well, you've got wolves in the world that people are trying to do harm, do violence. You've got most people are sheep, and not in a derogatory sense, more of like they're kind, good-hearted. And then you've got these sheepdogs that sometimes don't fit in because they're trained for aggression, but they deeply love the sheep and they were willing to fight the wolves. And it's kind of a cool idea and a concept to think about. But there's that as a backdrop, and then thinking about our faith and our role as men in this calling of fatherhood, in what respect of, this role to look out for the herd, let's say. And I think there's three things in that talk I kind of touched on, which is like, all right, what's a sheepdog do? Well, it herds the flock, it fights off the wolves, and it follows the shepherd. Like, all right, I can identify with those things. And you think about, all right, so the one's internally focused on the flock. You think about it as like your family or whatever loved ones that you either vocationally responsible to look out for, or familiar responsible as a man, like maybe you're a son or a brother or someone to look out for. And the question I feel like challenged by in that is, am I willing to be unpopular with my loved ones to look out for their spiritual and moral development? That's kind of the challenge there of like, hey, that sheepdog, it's like nipping and barking at those sheep, and like it's not really pleasant, but they feel like they have to do it. And they're saying, well, this sheep may not like me for a second, but I'm not doing it to be liked. I'm trying to serve what the shepherd wants them to do. So there's that aspect that I thought, that's a good challenge for me. The next aspect, think about is like fight. And that's where if the danger comes and the wolf comes, the sheepdog's got to be willing to go out there and risk, getting injured or killed. He's the one that's got to step up. You can't hesitate to do that. And you think about that in our faith and our society is, that challenge that we're all going to be faced with. Like, am I really willing to risk something that I hold dear? Maybe it's my reputation, maybe it's career advancement, maybe it's other things, to stand up for the faith in society. And that's, it's not easy to do, and it comes at a cost. And you see so many heroic saints have done that, or examples. But like that's really a calling all of us as men are faced with. And the last aspect is kind of follow. And that's this idea of like, hey, the sheepdog should get no credit for anything. All the sheepdog should get credit for is hearing the shepherd and obeying what he says to do. Like that's ultimately what it all comes back to. It's not for the sheepdog's glory, or in the case may be, it's no matter. But the challenge there is, am I willing to, to ask, listen, and obey the Lord, the Good Shepherd, to the ends, to whatever that obedience takes me. And that's something that again you see throughout history, that a lot of these saints did heroic things, but at the time they weren't that way. They died in anonymity. They did things without any acclaim. They're kind of nobodies in the world's eyes, but that was not what they're called to do. That's not what we're called to do. And so this idea of herd, fight, follow, it felt like a good kind of challenge for myself as a man of how to try to think about my role of as how I should follow the Lord.
Wow. To any of the priest listeners out there, you can credit Conor Donahue when you use this on Good Shepherd Sunday.
I don't know if it's theologically accurate. The moment quick, I was like, well, I'm saying we're not sheep. We are sheep in the theological sense. No. I'm mixing metaphors there.
Yeah, not in the social media sense. All you sheep,
Yeah. Right. Sheeple and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Different applications people have used those words, obviously.
You want to give that talk at parishes.
Yeah. All right.
More.
Yeah.
No, listen, that is very powerful, very astute. And given when people know your background, they're tuned in, right? Like men want to hear from, what they kind of as young men idolized. We idolize this idea of the great American hero, action figure in real life. Like a Navy SEAL is that epitome. And we grow up to be men and we know that you're just another man. But like your story has this magnetism from the very second you start to talk, because none of us were Navy SEALs. But then you take it and you drive it home to what is this life of service with a scrappy sheepdog going all in. Brother, that's incredible.
Well, and I think men want to know that, especially young men, right? Like they're on that cusp and they want to know that they have what it takes.
Yes.
And so what you have been through is a program that is explicitly designed to give you what it takes and to let you know you have what it takes, because you need to be able to know that when you're under the pressure of an actual firefight, a skirmish or whatever.
Right.
You're in battle.
Yeah. And I think, like you're saying, there's applications to any station in life. I think that people can apply to that. And in that anyone can be strengthened or ennobled, and the faith can be deepened with some of these principles that are timeless.
Yep.
We're taking the same lessons that the saints before us have carved and learned, and we're following their footsteps.
Amen.
All right. Well, this is a time to really test the fortitude of a couple men at this table. We're going to have a challenge for you. We finish every Monday episode differently than any other Monday episode. And given your training and also the training that Paul and I have been going through on the podcast, very similar.
I'm going to play host to this game, which is hold your breath.
Yeah. Can you hold your breath longer than a Navy SEAL? Time will tell. And this is an audio podcast, so I'll play a little bit of soft background music. Don't laugh because it'll mess up your.
No,
I'm not gonna make any pronouncements. I'm not gonna make any predictions. I'm not gonna.
Don't do the soft jazz.
Soft. Yeah, the Yaz is good. Soft.
It needs to be something more like rocky.
Okay, I got you.
Right,
Pump
it up.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I got this.
Fair. There we go.
Okay, we're going to be holding our breath to an uplifting song. When you're
right.
done holding your breath, you're going to hold your nose,
I'll
maybe?
get the timer
That makes
going.
sense. And listen, I think you have to make a noise, when you're done.
And
so it's very
like
clear.
that.
And
Yep.
Nick, you need to narrate.
Yeah, of
you
course.
better have a
All
lot
right.
to share
I've
because
got
I'm
lots,
going for 5 minutes.
I've got lots going on. I'll take the under on that, and we'll go here in 3, 2, 1, start. And they're off. We've got everyone pinching their nose. Jeff is going into a deep meditative state, closing his eyes. Paul was checking that out, thinks he's going to follow suit. And Connor, eyes closed from the beginning. We are now 15 seconds in, and I'm guessing their lungs are they're feeling a little twinge at this point. Have they started to exhale yet? Probably not. Connor is in the zone. Jeff, no, little eyelid flicker there, nodding in response. Paul just rocking the hair. Nothing else to say there. And we're hitting now 45 seconds, and Jeff's out.
When you mentioned my eyelids, it got me.
But Paul's looking pretty steady here. Few eyelid flickers there. That could be an early warning sign, we're learning. And man, Connor is looking like a Navy SEAL over here.
When you started mentioning exhaling, I was like, is that something you're allowed to do? And then I got in my head, and once it got in my head, I was done.
We can exhale, and that feels like a little bit of a release of that heat, right? Like that burning kind of, but then it starts to quickly come back.
Yeah, and you got to make sure that you're not exhaling.
And strategically, are you going a little bit of a exhale at here and there?
Yeah, imagine doing this against Kenny G, the saxophonist. Yeah, that would be hard.
Saxophonist.
I actually think somebody might pass out, which
We're
is going to get really
minute
awkward.
30. I am impressed. with
there
Paul
is
right
incredible.
Connor, I expected.
This is incredible. He actually looked at his watch like he's swimming underwater. It's
man.
50 pounds of water pressure on him right now.
Oh,
Paul's
impressive, Paul. At
Good job,
152,
Paul.
you got 7:65 to get to 2 minutes. 4, 3, 2, 1. There's 2 minutes.
Okay,
He's
that's
going to keep
halfway.
going. Yeah. Impressive.
Man,
Impressive.
how did that feel
I knew
for
if I
you?
gave you that countdown, you could get to 2.
Did you start to feel that?
Yeah, I felt that.
I've done some Wim Hof breathing stuff. Have you ever done those
Man.
exercises?
Impressive.
So, nothing quite like this guy, but I've apparently it stuck, some of it.
That was good.
You did great. I think what you talked about earlier, listening to Nick makes this way harder.
Yeah.
my entire time I was trying to
just tune it out.
Yeah. Extra challenge.
You're like, I'm going down the line. You're like, dang it, he's about to talk about me. Yeah, you're like,
he had to keep the
podcast
narration going. I mean, he had a tough job.
Great job, Nick.
you bet.
All right, Connor, what a blessing, the scrappy sheepdog. And great job on breath holding by all of us and narrating. For all of you, we're going to see you in the breath of life. And for the rest of you, we will
see you in the Eucharist.
God bless you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to join us at our undersized table, subscribe to the video version of the show on YouTube by typing @ that's the symbol @, so shift and 2 on your keyboard, @ the _ BeatiDudes on YouTube. We'll see you there.